What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Unstoppable, the elite mind and body podcast for men. Today, we're going to discuss navigating change, how to embrace and thrive in uncertain times. Now, before I get into this episode, I want to let you guys know who this episode's for, okay? This episode is for you if you are currently changing jobs. This episode is for you if you're a new parent. This episode is for you if you're a newly retired person, a retiree. This episode is for you if you're moving, if you're a divorcee, if you're a newlywed, if you're new or shifting businesses, or if you're going through renovations or home improvements in your house. Any sort of change in your life, if you're going through it, this podcast is for you. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of how to navigate change, because your brain is a pattern recognition machine. Okay. The reason why we are at the level that we are in civilization is because we developed the prefrontal cortex, which allowed us to recognize patterns. Okay. Our brains are pattern recognition machines that are hardwired to keep us safe. Okay. Our brains are hardwired to keep us comfortable. Our brains are hardwired to create predictability in our lives and to seek dopamine hits. As soon as the pattern shifts and our brain recognizes it, all hell breaks loose in the brain, right? You start to become stressed. You start to get anxious. You start to get worried. You start to feel pressure. You start to feel potentially depressed, or you start to feel self-doubt or imposter syndrome when there are changes in your life. Okay. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. And this means that every single thing that you do in life, the reason why you do it is because it's a pattern that's either become a circumstantial pattern that you have gained from your environment or from your peers or from everything that's going on in your life, or it's a pattern that you've created yourself. Okay. Now, the thing to keep in mind when it comes to a time of your life when you're experiencing change and it feels worrisome, it feels anxious, is that change shifts control out of your hands into the hands of your circumstance, or into the hands of your environment, or into the hands of a new situation, or into the hands of a new boss, or into the hands of the unknown. Okay. And because your brain is a pattern recognition machine, control is the most important thing. Okay. If you lose control, if you feel as though you lose control over your life, you're going to experience stress. You're going to experience that anxiety, that pressure, that confusion, that self-doubt. Because without control, we have nothing, right? Our brains recognize no patterns because our lives are outside of our control. Okay. Now, the number one priority for navigating through a changing environment, a changing job, or getting a divorce, or moving in with your significant other, or getting married, or shifting businesses, whatever it is, the number one priority for navigating change is to gain control at all costs. Okay? Gain control at all costs. If we don't have control, if we don't feel as though we have control over our destiny, over our environment, over our friends group, over our career, our business, our life, our health, if we don't feel as though we have control over these things, you're going to feel extremely, extremely stressed. Now, I want to talk about a couple actionable steps that you can use to navigate through change, because there's a lot of my clients currently right now that are inside my program that are going through a whole number of these things, right? Some of them are going through divorces. Some of them are retiring. Some of them are shifting businesses. Some of them are shifting jobs. Some of them just got laid off or let go of their job of the last 10 years. And the first initial reaction of the brain, because it's a pattern recognition machine and because you've been doing the same thing for so long, is to naturally go haywire, right? Is to naturally freak out, not know what's going on, point the blame at somebody else, get stressed, get anxious, start doubting yourself, be confused, where in reality, the most important step when it comes to navigating and thriving and embracing change is to regain the control in your life. Okay. And the only way that you can regain control in your life is by getting clarity. Okay. Because here's the thing. Every single door that closes in your life, another one opens. right? Every single door that closes, every single chapter that ends, there's a new chapter waiting to be explored. Now, whether that's a good chapter or the worst chapter of your life is completely within and under your control. Okay. Now, here's the funny thing about control. If you don't have it, circumstantially, your circumstances will be in control of you. Okay. And I said that wrong, but it's your circumstances will control you if you are not in control of your own life. This is where it gets really tricky and gets really dangerous. In order to gain clarity on where you're going, the very first thing that needs to happen is, again, remember, if you just shifted jobs, you're divorced, you're newly retired, you're a new parent, whatever sort of new change is going on in your life, you need to start with the end in mind. What does the end of this new chapter look like? Right? How are you going to evolve, and what do you want to accomplish? Who do you want to become at the end of this new chapter? Right? I did this exercise with a client of mine who was working at like industrial plants. He did sales. He did tech. He would work on the tools. He lived in Alberta and essentially would be working oil and gas job. He got let go from his job of years, and his very first thought was, I'm screwed. Like, I don't know what to do. Like they didn't give me any explanation. Like, haywire, right? Your first initial response is haywire. Okay. I told him that he needed to start with the end in mind. Okay. If that chapter just closed and you just lost that job, what does the next chapter look like? So what he did was he hit the drawing board. He wrote down what he wanted his next job to be, what checks he needed it to hit, right? What things he would need from the job to be satisfied, more satisfied from his last job, where he would want that job to be, how much time he would doesn't want to spend away from his daughter, because the other job he would be on and off and on and off, traveling all over the place to different sites, right? He mapped out what the end of this next chapter looks like in his life, right? And funnily enough, since mapping out what he wants and truly getting clear on, this is the job I want, this is the pay that I want, this is the role that I want, these are the responsibilities that I want, this is the kind of life that I want to live. Since building the end of the chapter, he's got a couple interviews already. And it's only been like a week and a half. Okay. Because he mapped out and figured out what he wanted. So in order to regain control in an uncertain situation, you've got to gain clarity on the end. Okay. What does the end of this chapter look like for me? Okay. If you're newly retired, okay, you're done working. What does the ultimate life that you want to live look like post-retirement? Right? Maybe you just got married and things are rocky at the start. Me and my wife, our first month, 2 months as a married couple was extremely rocky. If I didn't have the end of my marriage, not the end of my marriage, right? But like the ultimate version of my marriage in my mind, I would have left. Okay. Let's say you're a new parent. Okay. You're a new parent. You just had this baby. The baby is taking over everything. Maybe the baby is colic, crying all over the place, miserable. What do you do in that situation? You need to have clarity on what the end looks like. What does this next chapter look like? What does the ultimate best version of this next chapter look like for you? Without that level of clarity, there will be no control. Your life will be solely under the control of that baby, or solely under the control of your new job that you hate, or solely under the control of the circumstance that you are in because you were never able to regain control of your circumstance, regain control of your future, and gain clarity on who you want to become and where you're going. Okay. So start with the end in mind, right? The next step in regaining control is building the vision. Okay. Because you can have an end goal in mind, like a highest version of your life in mind. You could have that tangible idea of where you want to go, the job that you want, the life post-retirement that you want, the family that you want to have, the business that you want to have. You can have an idea of it. You can have that as a goal. But if you don't have a specific vision for what the life looks like, once you achieve that goal, it's near impossible to hit. Okay? Because human beings, we can only achieve our highest thought, right? So if you set the target and you say, hey, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, this is who I want to become, this is how I want my life to look, but you don't have a picture painted for exactly what your life is going to entail, it's not tangible enough to bring real meaning into your life. It's not real tangible enough to help you feel more in control of your situation. Okay? So we've got to get the end. We start with the end in mind. Then we have to build the vision for the end, build the lifestyle that we want to live, truly build what life is going to look like as we continue in this next chapter. Okay? And then what we need to do after we build that vision is we need to reverse engineer the steps. Okay? Reverse engineer the steps that are going to take you from right now, screaming baby, miserable wife, or freshly retired, no idea what's next, or changing business because your last business exploded, or doing renovations in your house and sleeping at your freaking friend's house and fighting every single day, or newlywed, you and your wife are at each other's throats because you've never lived together before. You need to go from that current change situation to the dream outcome. How are you going to get there? We have to reverse engineer the specific steps, okay? Because if we don't reverse engineer those steps and we don't have the clarity, we never regain control. And the reason why we gain control when we have clarity of where we're going and what the steps are is because now we have a focal point. Now we have something to focus on. Now we have something tangible that we can use in our morning routine, something tangible that we can focus on when times get tough and all you want to do is crack open a six-pack and fucking do drugs and do a bunch of stuff to waste your time and waste your life. We need to have that tangible outcome that's built into a vision that has specific steps that are going to help you guarantee that you will live that life. That's how you gain control. Okay? Because here's the thing. Another funny thing about control is that we're never really in control, are we? Right? Like, are we really ever in control? Truly? Do you have control of making the sale in your business? Really? It's not your money that somebody's paying to work with you or buy a house from you or invest in your product or service, right? You're not in control of what your spouse does on the weekends. She goes to a freaking, a party or something. You don't have control of whatever she does, right? You don't have control of what that baby's doing. You ever try to control a baby? Doesn't work, bro. Okay, if you don't believe it, you don't have babies yet. You can't control it. We're not in control. That's the craziest part of control, is that we need to manufacture the idea of control because our brains are pattern recognition machines. We need to feel as though we are in control to the best of our ability to regain confidence in what we're doing and regain belief in the fact that the shitty situation that you're in is going to end. Okay? I'm talking to that person that's got the streaming baby right now. I'm talking to that person who's just retired right now and doesn't know what's next. I'm talking to that person whose business is collapsing right now because of whatever reason, the market, because of ill preparation, because of the wrong timing, because of whatever it is. I'm talking to that person who's living right now in their parents' basement because they failed at their career. This situation only ends if you can manufacture the idea and belief that you have control in your outcome. That's the only way you're going to move forward and not be depressed and stressed and anxious and pissed off all the time. That's the only way it works. Okay? Now, really quickly, I want to talk about the flip side of control and all of this, because if you don't regain control and you don't get clarity on what that outcome is, you don't build the vision, you don't reverse engineer the steps, you don't understand how it's going to get better, what happens is you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's when people turn to addictions. That's when people turn to the strip club. That's when people turn to drugs. That's when people turn to cheating and getting divorced. That's when people turn to slacking on their job and getting fired. Or that's when people turn to making the same mistakes again in business that got them in the same position they're in right now. Right? you must have that clarity. You must have that end vision in mind, that focal point that you can rely on, that your brain can rely on as a pattern that gives you the illusion or the idea, at least, of control. Okay. Now, next thing I want to talk about is coping, because during this time of change in your life, whatever that change is, right? During this time of change, you've got to find specific coping mechanisms, because even once you get that vision and once you get that idea and you know what the steps are that are going to take you to the best version of this next chapter in your life, you still need to find a way to cope with the situation that you're in right now, right? And whatever situation you're in, there's two things I want to talk about. The two best ways to cope with any changing situation are as follows. Number one, meditation. Right? Number one is meditation. And if you are like anything like me, even up until 2023, I never meditated. I would visualize, I would build up my visions and my goals, my gratitude, I would journal, all that stuff, but I never meditated. Meditation is the key to unlocking true self-awareness. Meditation is the key to unlocking the capacity to be at peace with what's going on in your life. Whatever the change is that you're navigating, and I don't know what it is, it's probably different for all of us, but whatever that change is that you're navigating in your life, you've got to find a way to bring it back to center. You've got to find a way to ground yourself. You've got to find a way to become aware of your situation and just accept it and move forward, knowing that this situation you're in right now, no matter if it's amazing or if it's turbulent or if it's extremely hard, it will end. But the only way to make peace with the situation now and move forward with the right mentality and the right mindset is through meditation. That's the first method of coping with change. The second method of coping with change is action. Action alleviates anxiety. I want you to say that and I want you to write it down. I stole that from Wes Watson. He's a great motivator, by the way. Action alleviates anxiety. Okay? Anytime I've ever been anxious in my life, anytime I've ever felt like I wasn't doing enough, it's because I wasn't doing enough. Right? Anytime my business has slacked, or anytime my relationship wasn't where I wanted it to be, or anytime my kids were just miserable, it's because I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough as a father. I wasn't doing enough as a husband. I wasn't doing enough in my business. I wasn't taking enough action on social media. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough. It's the same thing with you. No matter what change you're going through in your life, action is the solution. You take enough actions, you can sleep at night knowing that you did everything that you could have that day that moved your life forward in the direction of positive change. Okay? Now, the last thing, before I let you guys go, because this is a 20-minute long podcast, I don't want to take it much longer than that, okay, is you need to create your footing. During any time of change in your life, you need to plant roots. Okay. You need to plant roots in what you're doing. You need to find ways to create routines and routines and habits that serve you. Okay. You need to plant roots in a way that allow you to move forward from this this time of change and move it forward towards that highest version of yourself, that highest version of your life that you're working towards. Okay. Plant roots, build out the habits, build out the routines, and most importantly, during times of change, make the decision and commit to getting better every single day. Okay. Because if you don't, the only other way is backwards. Okay. And believe you me, I'll tell you right now, as a person who's been at rock bottom in my life, I can tell you that I will never go backwards. Absolutely not. Okay. And I want that to resonate with you guys for a moment, because I know a lot of people out there that are listening to this podcast may be in a position in their life where backwards seems like a good option, but it's never a good option. Backwards creates regret. The only way to reach any goal is forward motion. All right, you guys. I hope you're having an amazing day so far. I hope this podcast was amazing for you. I hope it opened up your eyes to how you can navigate change properly and how you can actually thrive in certain stressful and turbulent situations that you may be going through. All right. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's episode.